So this lens that I'm testing today is actually the 40mm anamorphic lens. It's a 1.8 aperture with a 1.33 times squeeze by Sirui, and it is autofocus. And there's only two autofocus anamorphic lenses in the world at this current moment, and it's this one and a Blazar 50mm for the Super 35 sensors. Sirui reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to shoot with this lens?" And I said, "Hell yeah, of course I would." I've never shot with an anamorphic lens before, but I've always wanted to do stills with it. So what I've decided to do is make a video for video and a video for stills. And this is that video. So I'll be showing you photos throughout this entire video that I've shot with this lens. And at the end, I'm going to explain how to actually de-squeeze these photos so you can, if you decide to use an anamorphic lens, do the same thing. So I just wanted to go over some of my thoughts and feelings on this lens and let you know how the autofocus performs, the sharpness, and yeah, I think the image quality is the biggest thing that we're all here for, right? So we're definitely going to go over that as well. I do find it very cool to use anamorphic lens to get kind of the X-band aspect ratio without actually having to have an X-band camera. I had the GFX 50S and I loved shooting in that crop. It looked fantastic, and this gives you a similar field of view, not quite as much, but it still does look very, very cool. I'm so tired of the word cinematic, so I decided to use the word Cinemagic for this because it does give you that cinemagic that you are probably looking for. And of course, we have to talk about the streaks that you get with this, or the lens flares. As you can see, I have a light directly facing here, and it does give some really cool lighting flares, and also have a flashlight to show you kind of what to expect. One thing that I really like about this is that they have diluted the actual streaks so they're not so abrasive, but as you see, there are still some nice streaks in here, and I do like that a lot. Alright, so they make this lens with a blue coating or a neutral coating, and I went with the neutral because whatever light source hits it, it becomes that color. So as you see, the streak now is kind of a whitish blue, and then this one behind me is more of an orange because it adapts to whatever you point towards it, which I really love because you can use this in more situations than you can with just a blue streak, in my opinion. And since they have diluted the actual streak, it gives you more opportunities to use this as a normal lens rather than just looking for those streaks. So I do appreciate that about this lens. As far as sharpness goes, it's not the sharpest lens, but most videos you don't have to have clinically sharp, in my opinion, because there's so much that goes on and you're not going to nail focus all the time, and so many people use manual focus and have to have follow focus, and I'm not shooting high budget actual cinema projects, and that's not something that I'm concerned about. I shoot mostly for YouTube, some smaller clients, and some vertical content, and that's what I'll be using lenses like this for. So I'm not going to be making movies, so I don't need something to be clinically sharp, and most movies aren't clinically sharp. So this kind of follows suit with that. It is sharp enough for what I need. And honestly, if your subject is still and you're doing a photo shoot, I have found that it is pretty freaking sharp in the center at 1.8, and definitely when you stop down. And one thing I do love about anamorphic lenses that I didn't really think would be a thing, because I'm so used to shooting, if I'm shooting wide open and I have a lens flare, it's because I am shooting wide open. But if you stop this lens down to, we're at f5.6 right now, and you can see the streak has almost increased in power. I mean, look how cool that is. So the streak is always there, and I never knew that. I'm new to anamorphic lenses, so don't make too much fun of me, but that is nice to know that you don't have to shoot wide open to get really cool effect. Who is this lens really for? In my opinion, they targeted photographers and videographers with this because they did put a clicked aperture ring, and that struck me very quickly whenever I picked this thing up, and I absolutely love that. So I think if you're wanting something that's different, this is definitely something that's going to set you apart from people that are doing typical photos. And you can always crop in if you need to, so it could be the standard ratio that you want, and you can still get some really cool effects and just have it cropped in. Or you can present your images in that really wide ratio that this gives you. I also think it's for people that are on a budget or don't want a manual focus. And most of the times I don't, because I'm shooting myself on these videos, and this is just really nice to have an autofocus lens with a really cool aspect ratio and effects. All right, so while we're talking about the aspect ratio and everything, I want to actually show you what it looks like. So this is 40 millimeters, and you have to think it's APS-C, so it crops in 1.5 times. So that would be an equivalent of around a 60 millimeter. However, whenever you have the 1.33 squeeze, it actually opens it up quite a bit more. And as you can see, this is my field of view right now with a 40 millimeter crop. So it's not 60 anymore, it's about 42 millimeters. So you almost get the exact same size as you're supposed to get, full frame equivalence. So I think it's very cool that if you get a 40 millimeter for an APS-C, you're actually getting around 40 millimeters. I'm gonna show you what an actual 50 millimeter full frame looks like right now. All right, so this is the 50 millimeter full frame Sigma lens that I have here, shooting at 5.6. And as you can see, the field of view is a little bit tighter than what you would get from the 40 millimeter, which is a crop sensor. So it's just kind of cool to see how that works with the squeeze function. All right, so I want to show you how the actual bokeh looks on this. It's more of a hexagon than an oval, and I kind of find it a little strange. And I don't know if that's because the actual anamorphic element is at the front rather than the back of this lens. So I typically use a variable ND plus mist filter, but I took it off for this actual shot here. Okay, so apparently whenever you're actually stopped down with this lens, it turns more oval than it does wide open. And that's something that I find to be quite a bit strange, because it seems like on other lenses it does the opposite. So let's see how that looks. So whenever you're shooting stills with this thing, you can keep two things in mind. One, you could either use an external screen if you want to, and have one that de-squeezes. I use the Viltrox DCX2, fantastic, great budget monitor. And there's also the DC550 that I use as well, and I love both of these monitors. Or you can do it just off of your camera if you have a de-squeeze mode, or if you don't, whatever your rule of thirds is, you can see what your image is gonna kind of look like, and when you get home, it's gonna be kind of a surprise to you to see what it actually looks like. So there's two ways to do it, and I've done it both ways, and both ways work just fine. So let's hop over onto the computer so I can show you how I actually work with these files. There is a few ways to do it, and I'm gonna show you the quickest way that I found that works for me. This is from a Utah preset pack. I have a lot of these. Finesse is what I use mostly, but for this one I like arches because it is saturated, and we have this really cool sunset happening here. And that's about all I want to do to that one. Here's my wife with a bloody nose, not by me. And I'm just gonna adjust accordingly to how I want it to look. And that looks pretty good. Edit both of these in Photoshop. All right, so what you'll do is go to image size. You're gonna unlock these, and you're gonna multiply this top number by 1.33. And here, for me, it's 7171, and that should expand the image just like that. And that is what the image would look like. If you want to do a lot of these at once, you can actually create an action within Lightroom, which I've done here. And you just click de-squeeze for me, and then I'll just click OK, and it figures it out. So that's what the image looks like in the end, which is really cool. And it's pretty simple, honestly. So I hope this was helpful. Very quick rundown on how to do this. So yeah, I do believe that you could use this on a professional setting, no problem whatsoever, and nobody would ever know. Obviously the only thing you have to worry about is the aspect ratio, and it does crop to a Super 35 or APS-C. I'm shooting it on the Nikon Z8, and it works really well for the Nikon Z8, but it's sad that I'm losing some of it because I've seen some people show the full frame and it does cover the entire frame, which would have been nice if Z8s or Nikon would let you actually use your full sensor with crop sensor lenses, but they won't, unfortunately, because they want to cripple your creativity, I believe. And I digress. I think that It's just great. It's wonderful what they're doing, and I think that moving forward, this is showing us what the future of anamorphics are going to be like. There's going to be other people that come out with these types of lenses, and I'm really excited to see who does it and who does it the best. And Sirui is just going to get better as time goes on. They've already released a couple of updates for this. The most recent update allowed the lens to be a lot quieter, which is really great because it does make quite a bit of noise as of right now out of the box. And it also has faster autofocus, according to the online documents that I read and other YouTube people out there that have done tests with it. But unfortunately, I cannot update mine because this is a test model, and I just can't update it. It won't let me. It just breaks every time I try. So I'm back reverted to the original firmware. Okay. Finally, after several updates have come out to this lens, I was fortunate enough to be able to download the firmware and install it onto this lens, and I want to show you how fast the autofocus has gotten, and it's a lot quieter. Let me get out of the way. And it tracks really well on the eyes. I mean, it's a lot better than it was. The photo aspect of it, it seems like it's a little bit laggy with the autofocus on photo for some reason. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you have any comments, questions, or anything about this lens for the video aspect of this next video that I have coming up, let me know and I can answer those questions in that video. That was a lot of videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, peace.